Welcome to the Heartache Connoisseur Podcast. Hey, I'm super excited to be here today. I'm going to talk to you about codependence. We're going to do an exploration of this subject. We may take a few episodes. I haven't decided yet. We're going to see how this feels and how quickly this goes. But one of the places that I have turned to for much education and inspiration in my quest to understand male-female relationships is Bon Jovi. No, seriously. Like I'm riding around in the car and I'm listening to the radio, and these songs that come on. I mean, it doesn't matter who it is. It's like all these different artists have songs about really unhealthy male-female love relationships. Now, sometimes you'll get a healthy one, and we may talk about that later too. I don't know. But anyway, it got me to thinking. I was like, okay, well, what's a really good example? Because Bon Jovi, nobody does it better. So he's got this song called Bad Medicine, right? And the chorus is like this. Your love is like bad medicine. Bad medicine is what I need. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Shake it up just like bad medicine. There ain't no doctor that can cure my disease. Bad medicine. Well, there's some truisms in this, and there's a mistake or two. But, I'm sure John knows more about all of this than I do. I mean, for God's sake, he probably wrote this when he was, how old would he have been? I mean, he's probably in his early 20s, It's probably him and Tico sitting around talking about girls, And John's like, yeah, it's like I'm addicted. She's like a bad drug, like bad medicine. Oh, that's good. Tico, get a notepad. Ready? And then I'm sure that's how it went. Now, seriously, have you guys ever seen Dragonfly's Mate? I have. You go outside in the summertime and you're prancing around your yard, and you'll see these dragonflies, and they're stuck together, and they're all contorted, and they can barely fly, and it took me a long time to realize what was happening there. I was raised pretty sheltered. But no, they mate, and they kind of stick together, and they keep on trying to do their lives stuck together like this. And it's real weird because the male's genitals are up around its chest area in the thorax, and the female's genitals are down at the very tip of the abdomen, or sort of at the very, very end, the back side of this thing. And they got to figure out how to contort themselves to stick these parts together. And so the way it goes is that the male dragonfly is flying along, and he's got pretty good vision for a bug, evidently, and he sees a female that he fancies, and maybe he likes her color, maybe he likes her shape, maybe he likes her size, whatever it is, whatever he's into. And he comes up behind her, and he lands on her back. He bites her, grabs her around the neck, and then forces her to contort her body such that their genitals meet. And it takes as long as it takes, and then after it's all over, the male guards her ferociously until fertilization is complete. Now, interestingly, it's the final sperm that fertilize the dragonfly egg. And if there are other males that have been there before him, some dragonflies, in fact, have specialized organs that actually clean out the reproductive canal of the females to make room for their own seed. I mean, seriously, it does not get any better than this. This is exactly how it is, right? I mean, think about this. Does this not sound like Saturday night downtown? I mean, it really does to me. Except that in the dragonfly world, I didn't read much about the ways that the female gets back at him for all of this nonsense. But I'm sure that there are ways. But Codependence. What is this? We throw this term around, and I like the term. I mean, personally, I think everybody's got some of this because we're imperfect, right? And the reason you develop this, basically, the theory goes, is that your parents are imperfect and they leave you improperly cared for. And so early on, you have to develop the ability to get your own needs met however you can. And sometimes that causes you to in effect, grow up way too fast. You learn how to manipulate others. You become an adult, the adult caregiver sometimes in a family system where inappropriately, sometimes even the child is put in a position where they're caring for a parent. And then you get in these relationships and you basically walk out all these old patterns again, and you use what you know. You use manipulation, you use control, you use passive aggression, underhanded deceit, power, intimidation, whatever your weapons or tools are, you've developed. And so, these things are, they're, in a way, it's like you don't have to really be ashamed about this because it just happens. And it happens generation after generation because we humans are imperfect creatures and we keep passing on these traits to our young. And one might argue that some of this is actually necessary for the survival of the human species. It is these push-pull dynamics that kind of glue people together and allow for procreation to take place. I mean, some of this drama that we all live with it's exciting to some degree for people. They like that. It turns them on, literally. And so then you make babies and the human species propagates and all this. But we are more than animals, I would like to believe. We can rise above our dragonfly tendencies and figure out how to do love in a way that is not bad medicine. So here's error number one. First of all, if it's bad medicine, it ain't love. If it tastes like the worst cough syrup you've ever poured down your gullet, let's ask ourselves if this is something that we can call love. But he told me he loved me. He told me he couldn't live without me. He told me that I was the only one for him. I was the best he'd ever had. On and on and on and on. Right? And if that is the way it feels to you, if it feels like this black hole, and you're a pair of black holes, and you're two black holes in the same room, sucking the light out of each other, a pair of vampires, let's say, and that's not love. That's what I call reciprocal parasitosis, or parasitic vampirism. That's another term I like. And yes, I coined those. So if you want to use them, you got to give me credit. Just kidding. Use them all you want. So that's the way it is. We begin to attempt to suck the life force out of another. We begin to try and get all of our needs met from them. And then inevitably they don't do that for us. They can't provide, they can't fill the hole in our soul. And so then we hate them for it. Then we resent them. And then we want to punish. We get our hearts broken. We get let down. And so this how do we get ourselves into this mess? It's because we fall in love, right? Well, what is this falling in love? Now, from my perspective, and I think the perspective of psychology, sort of, or the mental health perspective, this is my take on it, is that what we know as falling in love is actually sort of like our pathologies meeting somebody else's pathologies, and it's a lock and a key. It just fits together beautifully, and it feels like all the ways that we're lacking, this other person is now going to fill those holes, and then vice versa. And it's like, oh my God, I found the wonder drug. I found the elixir. I found the fountain of youth, or whatever it is. It's like, it feels like all of the things that plague my soul are answered in this person. And if I spend time around them, I'm going to be okay. I'm never going to be alone again, right? We in equal proportions want to be together. Isn't that convenient? We want to be around each other and take from each other approximately the same amount. Now, I know this sounds cynical, and I'm not saying that there's not genuine goodness that occurs in the process of falling in love with your partner. Of course there is. Of course there's care and affection and love and sacrifice. But what I'm talking about is when we just go too far with it. We take the needs that we have and we attempt to get them met inappropriately, sometimes to a degree that causes serious pain, damage, sometimes even violence to ourselves and the other. Now, keep in mind, codependence traditionally had to do with addicts and the enabler, that sort of relationship. But it's really pretty much the same, even if there's no overt substance in the relationship. I think substance abuse really makes it plain as day. You know, when you've got somebody behaving badly, quote unquote badly, in the form of abuse of a substance, and then this other person is making it possible for them to do that. You know, it's like, well, I'm being a good partner, right? I mean, I'm driving him around when he's drunk. I'm paying his fines. I'm hiring him an attorney so he doesn't lose his job. You know, this sort of thing. I mean, so is that loving? I mean, it feels like it is at the time, because if you don't do that, the other person's going to say, "Whoa, I thought we had a deal. I behave like a child so you can feel like a parent, and then you make it possible for me to continue to behave like a child." Right? I mean, that's sort of the arrangement. And so getting out of these patterns involves, first of all, just, can we admit it, please? Can we own this? Can we accept that this is true? There is freedom on the other side. And relationships can grow past a lot of this. It's totally possible to get healthy, at least healthier than you are now. And the other thing is that when you do this, when you're engaged in these type of patterns and you haven't learned how to get through it and get over them, you keep doing it over and over again. And then you look back at your past and it's like you're leaving this trail of mangled romances behind you, having done your number on however many partners you've been through. And that just creates pain. I mean, it just creates pain for you, it creates pain for them, keeps me in business, frankly. I mean, you know, I'm not kidding. It's like these are the conflicts that keep people, you know, coming through our door, because honestly, a lot of the depression and anxiety that people suffer with are as a result of the continual relational frustrations that they feel. And they come in and they're like, can you help me, doc? Can you teach me how to change them? You know, and it's like, no, I can't do that. I can't teach you how to change your partner. But what I can do is help you make some changes. And we can acknowledge the fact that you actually have absolutely zero control over your partner and what they do. The only thing that you have any control over is yourself. And that's how you begin to heal, is that you own that part and you say, this is on me. I've got to do this work. And what does that work look like? In a nutshell, it looks like learning how to say no, setting good boundaries, taking good care of yourself, and learning how to forgive both yourself and others. I mean, that's essentially it. You got to stop trying to control. You have to take 100% complete responsibility for your own emotions. Stop making it all about the other partner, and clean your own house up. I mean, that's what it boils down to. That's where it's all gonna go. Now, that's hard. It takes work. There's a lot of times where these patterns have really, really become habits, and it takes repeated attempts at all of this to learn new behaviors, and that's okay. That's normal. You don't get out of this overnight, and you maybe don't get out of it altogether ever. I mean, it's kind of part of the human condition to some degree, and that's okay. But what we're looking to do is break the patterns that are really particularly destructive, get out of relationships that we know are very bad for us, the other person, perhaps our kids and otherwise, where there's abuse and substance abuse and all this sort of thing, and we get out of those, and we learn how to bring a healthier self into a relationship. And when we do that, when we get healthy, see, this is what happens. When we get healthy and we learn boundaries, we learn how to say no, we get self-respect, we can then enter into a relationship and it develops properly. It doesn't start out as, a pair of barnacles stuck together, It starts out as two people side by side who both have their own life pointed at a common goal, perhaps, or their own goals, and they do life side by side. Instead, what we do is we make our relationship the whole point of our existence. We make our partner our God, so to speak, and we basically ram our heads into our partner over and over again. And so it's like you have to turn 90 degrees, both of you, and begin to walk side by side instead of facing each other and continually ramming into one another. That's sort of a metaphorical, example of what a healthy relationship looks like. And if you start out on the right foot, first of all, the really unhealthy ones never get off the ground. I mean, if you're a relatively healthy person, let's say, and you're on Match.com and you start chatting somebody up and you end up going out on a date with them, it's not going to take you very long before you identify the behaviors in the other person that tell you that this is a no-go, because you're now wiser. It's as if you begin to operate on a different plane. Now, if you're unhealthy and you end up on a date with somebody who's unhealthy, it's like your unhealthiness begins to resonate and form all this energy, and it's dark and sexy, and it's all this, and it feels like love. It feels like bad medicine, and then you get addicted to it because it's what we know. Basically, it's what gets us off. It's what turns us on. It's what we've learned that relationships are. It's the only model we have. We don't know anything different. We don't know how to do it differently. And this is another hang up that people have. It's like when you get healthy, sometimes good medicine it's not appealing in a way. It's sort of like, is this going to be boring? Well, this guy's basically kind to me. I don't know. He's in khaki pants and a plaid shirt. He goes to work every day. He pays his mortgage. He's, I don't know about this. He stops at 2 beers. He seems to love his mother. I don't know. This is making me very nervous. And it can feel like that. Like, oh my goodness, this woman here is, she talks at an even tone of voice. She's a hard worker. She pulls her own weight. She loves her kids. She treats them kind. She's got good boundaries with her kids. She's consistent in her parenting. She's got friends. They're healthy friendships. They don't seem to sit around and gossip, and they don't talk about how what a terrible person I am, for a change. I don't know about this. This seems really dangerous. I mean, that's what it's like. And I'm like, look, folks, getting in a healthy relationship is a little bit like learning to enjoy a gourmet meal. What we're used to is fast food, and fast food's right. It's awesome, right? I mean, you go to McDonald's, you get a Big Mac and fries and a soda with sugar in it, and 800 calories later, you've got a buzz, you've got a rush, and then a few hours later, you go into withdrawal, and the next thing you want to do is go back to McDonald's for more of the same, right? Somebody gives you a gourmet meal. At first, you're like, I don't know. These flavors are strange. This isn't processed cornstarch goo. I don't know what to do with this. These are vegetables here. This is green. This is a lean cut of meat. There's a sauce on this with a name I can't pronounce. There's things here I don't even know that I can afford. I don't know. Maybe I should just go back and have more fast food. You've got to learn how to be, guess what, a connoisseur. You've got to learn how to do healthy relationships slow and patiently, and take your time and learn how to experience it and explore it fully. Allow it to be what it is. Stop trying to control it. Don't gorge on it. Take your time. I mean, look, this is an expensive meal. Don't wolf it down like we do our relationships. Don't inhale it. You know, this is, you take a bite, you chew it, and then you swallow it, and you make eye contact with the person at the table. You have a conversation. Maybe you put your fork down, pick up your napkin, dab off your lips, take a sip of good wine, and you breathe. And you're like, wow, this is good. I like this. I like the environment. I like the atmosphere. I like the conversation. This is worth my time. And it's good for me. I'm going to leave here nourished. I'm going to leave here better having had this interaction, as opposed to shaving years off my life in the form of this grease and corn syrup and starch and trans fats. Whatever it is. Those ought to be outlawed if they're not already. I'm pretty sure those are illegal, or at least off the map. But I digress. So, Mr. John Bon Jovi is our teacher today. He ain't got a fever. He's got a permanent disease, which we all have. It's called the human condition, and it causes us to do nutty things sometimes. But that's okay. We forgive ourselves, and we take our time, and we put one foot in front of the other, and we work our way out. And it doesn't happen overnight. And when we have setbacks, we get back up on the pony, and we keep on riding. So, hey, thanks for listening today. I appreciate it. Feedback is welcome. And feel free to go to the website and check out the Patreon page if you'd like to support this podcast. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great weekend coming up. Stay warm. And, love your partner well. Let them be who they are. Accept them just like they are. Accept yourself just like you are. Take some deep breaths. Don't fly off the handle. If you need to fly off the handle, take a drive. Just take it out on somebody out there on the road. See you later.